What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. All right, everybody, check it out, man. It is finally time for these box office numbers, all right? We've been waiting on it. We've been debating on it, talking about what was the opening weekend for Snow White going to look like. We finally got some numbers, both domestically and worldwide. But before we get to that, let's just take a quick trip down memory lane. When it came to this box office forecasting that everybody was doing, initially, back in February, they were saying, we think about 63 to 70 million. Some believe 65 million at that point in time was fair. I was like, no. That's way too high. That is way too high for this movie. Okay. From a domestic standpoint, that ain't it. That ain't it at all. And then, Box Office Pro had came out. They said 65 to 85 million. I was like, these cats ain't paying attention. You're not paying attention to what's going on out there. If you think this thing is going to do between 65 and 85 million, way too high. And then they started to scale it back a little bit. They said, all right, man, maybe it's like a $53 million box office opening. I'm like, all right, you're getting closer. All right. But I felt like at that time, 50 million was the absolute ceiling, or 55 million was the ceiling. And the possibility of it falling lower than that was absolutely in the cards because of all the controversy, because of all the backlash. I mean, this thing was a poison apple from the day we started hearing all of those Rachel Zegler comments. This thing was poison. Okay. There's no way in the world this was going to do like these lofty numbers that these cats was talking about. This was going to be one of the lowest box office that Disney ever saw for one of these live action remakes or one of these Disney princess movies. And that's exactly what happened. All right. Deadline posted up. Ho hum. Snow White opens to $43 million. What poisoned this princess at the box office? What do you mean what poisoned it? Have y'all not been paying attention, Anthony D'Alessandro? Have you not been paying attention? We've been talking about this for 2 years now. This movie was always going to fail and fail big. It was just a question of what the exact number was going to be, But 43 million, I'll be honest. I said, 45. At one point in time, I know I said it on a video. 45 million sounds about right. That sounds about right. And it did worse than that. It did worse than that. This movie is hot garbage. Nobody supports it. Like the Rotten Tomato rankings, 44. Look at this. This is what I was tripping on, right? The top critics and the all audience are almost in perfect alignment. 28% from the top critics, 23% for the all audience. The all critics even gave it a 44%. I don't know what movie the verified audience was watching. What were y'all watching, verified audience? Because y'all the only ones out of all of these groups that gave this thing a positive review or a positive score. That's all Disney employees, I guess. But yeah, 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not going to get it done. I still think this thing is going to drop into the 30s eventually. But yeah, the popcorn meter, look, the fans weren't rocking with this. All right. And Disney, you got to start listening to your fandom, man. You got to start listening to the people that put money in your pockets. All right. Instead of all the activists and all the idiots you got working for you. These people are out of touch. They have no idea what actual people want to go and watch in the movies. Listen, Disney, free game. You wanted to get this thing right. Here's what you should have did. You should have had like an American Idol style, The Search for Snow White. All right. Open casting call. Put it on ABC. Put it on Disney Plus. Just like American Idol. The Search for Snow White. All right. We're doing an open casting call. No names. All right. Brand new talent. We're not having, existing actresses go out there. We want to find an unknown to play this character and really put, care and attention to it, and you can bring them all in. Hey, you got to be a good singer. You got to show your acting chops, and then we would have watched this little reality show play out over the course of a year. And we would have gotten to know the actress. And it's like, hey, can you be a Disney princess? Take us to your little princess collection at your home. And we would have saw like behind the scenes of this young actress, between the ages of whatever, learning how to, become a princess and become a star. And that would have connected us, to this actress in a way that a lot of other films never do. And then on top of that, you could have had it in Germany. Say, hey, we're going straight to Germany. All right, we're going straight to Germany. The actresses can come from wherever, but we're going to host this thing where Snow White's legend began in Germany, and then you have like the castles and the forests and all of that stuff, and you shoot it on location. I would have did the show on location as well as the film. Imagine how that would have came off to audiences worldwide. We would have loved it. We would have fallen in love with the little actress that's playing Snow White, whoever wins the contest. And then, man, yeah, we coming to watch this, and we can't wait to see her as Snow White because we watched her develop and grow as an actress, as a singer, and everything. You could have had like a star panel of casting directors, and you could put Simon Cowell in it. I mean, that would have been money in the bank. All right? Look, Disney, if you ever need my help, just hit me up, man. I don't work cheap, though, okay? Yeah, and then the Hollywood Handle, they posted this up. Snow White underperforms and earns $87.3 million. $87.3 million in its global box office opening weekend. The film had a $270 million budget. So remember, they were talking about $100 million. Oh, yeah, $100 million. That's going to be where it's at. It's about 50-50 for domestic and international. Well, it is 50-50 in terms of the percentages, but not the dollars. You know, so this means it was about 44.3 million, somewhere in that range, you know, globally. This is a giant disaster. But Disney will never listen to its fans, and that's the biggest problem.
Listen to the fans.
Listen to the fans. You can't go wrong. All you got to do is say, oh, okay, so Rachel Zegler is a jerk and an asshole. Yeah, we probably shouldn't have her in here as a Disney princess. She's talking shit online to like Gina Carano. You know, she has all of these hot political takes for a little 19, 20-year-old that ain't never seen the world. You know what? Let's peel back off of Rachel Zegler as Snow White because she poisoned this entire thing. It was her. And if you don't want to accept that, Disney and fans out there, fine, don't accept it. But the reality is staring you right in the face because we all know that this chick is the reason that all of this shit went down the way it did. But yeah, let's check out this Variety article. Box office, Snow White leads with the sleepy 43 million. Look, who cares if it led the box office this weekend? Who cares? Sleepy, this is disaster. All right. Disney got a big mess on their hands. They're going to have to figure this thing out. Snow White may be the fairest of them all with the leading 43 million in its domestic box office debut, but Disney's latest live-action remake is off to a sleepy start. Overseas, Snow White also opened slightly behind projections with 44.3 million for a global launch of $87.3 million. Heading into the weekend, the film was estimated to collect $100 million globally. And remember, we said $100 million globally. That is a terrible start. That is horrible. And it's worse than that, y'all. Man, they gonna learn today. That's why I said, y'all gonna learn, Disney. Snow White arrived in theaters dogged with controversies, no kidding, including criticisms about the film's depiction of the Seven Dwarfs, complaints about changes to the nearly 100-year-old story, and calls for boycotts because of co-stars Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot's public stances on the Israel-Hamas war. There were also expensive reshoots which added many millions to the film's budget. Disney, as a result, scaled back the movie's Los Angeles premiere. I mean, that was the first sign. Disney knew this was going to happen. That was the first sign. Oh, yeah, no premiere, nope. Scaling it back. That was the first sign you guys knew. Disney expected this. They knew this was going to be a disaster. Maybe they didn't know exactly how big a disaster, but they knew it was going to be big without doing traditional red carpet interviews. However, analysts don't believe the deluge of bad publicity actually factored in. Oh, wow. Actually factored into the ticket sales. So the analysts don't think that any of this bad publicity that this movie got was a factor in the ticket sales. Wow. Wait, I don't know what's like. Why did they listen to these dudes? Like all of the YouTube analysts was like, "Oh yeah, this is about to be a flop, a giant flop." But the analysts was like, "We don't think that had anything to do with it." Are y'all not paying attention? Did y'all not see like the trailers? Did y'all not see the millions of dislikes this thing was getting? This thing's now sitting at 1.8 million. It's probably going to get to 2 million dislikes. Did y'all think this was just normal? This isn't normal behavior for these trailers, man. This isn't normal at all. Even the ones that get ratioed, they never get ratioed like this. It's never been like this before. At least in my circles. This is one of the most ratioed trailers of all times. And they're sitting up here, oh yeah, we didn't think there was any backlash, or the backlash didn't have anything to do with the box office. Are you kidding me? Chat Music, look, Chat Music has now made a 4th video. All right? They said this is the last one. They made a 4th video clowning from the comments in those trailers. Like what am I? You guys are missing the boat. Again, look, don't listen to the analysts for your box office and listen to the YouTubers.
Listen to the fans.
Listen to the fans. Listen to the people that are actually going to go and put money in the pockets of these clowns. Don't listen to these dudes. Like, these cats are sitting up here on the bad publicity had nothing to do with it. Like, wow, bro. All right, okay. Yeah, good job, man. Great analyzing. They're analysts. This is a situation that is never ideal, says senior ComScore analyst Paul Garabedian. In the case of Snow White, kids and families likely just wanted to see a PG film and were perhaps unaware of the controversy. Oh, wow. So they think people knew nothing about this. All of those empty theaters, people just wanted to see a PG film. No, people wanted to stay away from this movie. People did not respect what Disney was doing with the classic. They don't like Rachel Zegler as the princess, as Snow White, regardless of her performance. People got to understand, it's the zeitgeist that pushes this stuff outside of the movie. Okay? Aye, man. These people, they crack me up. Look, there are new rules to the game, okay? You get woke, you go broke. You fuck around, you find out. If you act up, you get smacked up. That's the way this thing works now. There are new rules to this. This is no longer like 1937 or whatever, evidently. This is new. That people are not spending money in the movie theaters, period. They're not going to the movies as it is. Still, this cinematic take on the 1937 animated classic has notched the lowest domestic debut to date for Disney's various reimaginings, below even 2019's Dumbo. Even Dumbo couldn't, bro. This is a disaster. Dumbo took flight with $45 million without adjusting for inflation. Prior remakes of The Little Mermaid, Jungle Book, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and The Lion King all opened above $100 million. They talking worldwide. All over $100 million worldwide. 3 of those, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and Lion King, were billion-dollar blockbusters, while the 4th, Jungle Book, got pretty close with $967 million. This should have been an easy Billy. Easy Billy. If they had did what I suggested at the very beginning, have some Star Search or American Idol style contest to pick a Snow White, and then you just, hey, we're just doing what Disney did, okay? We're going to remake this thing shot for shot, exact same songs, everything. Keep it around 85, 90 minutes. That's what we're going to do. We're gonna treat this as if Walt Disney himself was looking over our shoulder at every move we were making. No, don't do that, do this. We're gonna pretend like Walt Disney himself made this movie because this is his baby. This is the one that started it all. We're gonna pay homage. We're gonna pay respect. We're gonna pay reverence to this film. We're not fooling around with this. We're not gonna add any of our woke nonsense. Easy $1 billion. All y'all had to do is just follow the bouncing ball. Is literally connect the dots, paint by numbers. But they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. And so now they're looking at the worst thing ever. So what does this mean for Snow White in terms of box office fortunes? Well, whether the musical film is deemed a success or a flop will rely entirely on the tentpole staying power. If the $250 million film, which stars Zegler as the original Disney princess and Gal Gadot as the evil queen, follows a similar path of Dumbo, a lethargic $353 million globally, it'll signal that after one too many revisits to the vault, families are tiring of Disney's live action remakes. I think that's already the case. All right. Little Mermaid also fell short with $565 million. Another reboot, Lilo and Stitch, lands in theaters in May. I think Lilo and Stitch is making $1 billion. I think Lilo and Stitch is going to make $1 billion. I'm saying it right now. I think it's going to make $1 billion. Disney, however, believes that Snow White can mirror the slow and steady ascent of the last December's Mufasa. See, here's again. And listen, no shade to nobody that believes this. I just think the controversy is just too big for this movie. Mufasa had none of this going on. Mufasa did not have all of this controversy. It didn't have all of this negativity. We don't have a lot of negativity going on. We don't have a lot of controversy going on. It's just smooth sailing. The only thing, people really didn't want a Mufasa movie, but it's not like people were like, man, the actors and actresses are dog trash. They're shitting on the original. It was none of that stuff. That's the difference between Mufasa and Snow White. Everybody is laughing and mocking. It is pure mockery at this point, But we'll see what happens, man. I think this thing is going to bottom out, look, 252 domestically. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, I think this thing is going to bottom out for Snow White somewhere around 300 million worldwide. I don't think this thing legs it out at all. But anyway, we'll see what happens. You guys let me know what y'all think. Where do you think this thing ultimately ends up? I think at 350 is probably the ceiling. All right. And it may come lower than that, because again, worldwide, people are just rejecting the movie. You know, even here in the States, I mean, $43 million, that tells me a lot, right? Mufasa was also during, you know, the winter. It was during, you know, Christmas time. So, you know, it had that little, you know, weak winter to kind of build into January. Really nothing comes out in January, so people were still going to see Mufasa. There's good movies coming up, you know. There's good movies coming up this coming weekend that I think a lot more people will go and check out before Snow White. Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think. Jump down in the comments. Give me your thoughts and opinions on that. And thanks for watching. See you next time.